Have you ever felt a strange resonance with our oldest myths? You know, a feeling that these ancient stories are not just tales. They are something more. They are echoes. Echoes of a past so remote, so profound, that we have forgotten its true meaning. We dismiss them as primitive fantasies. We label them as the fictions of our ancestors. But what if they are not fictions at all? What if they are a distorted memory? A warning, carried down through millennia, waiting for us to finally understand its message. What if the stories of gods and men are actually the stories of creators and their creations? I am talking about the Anunnaki. This name comes to us from the dawn of civilization. It comes from the ancient Sumerians. Their clay tablets tell a remarkable story. They speak of powerful beings who came down from the heavens. These beings were not gods in the spiritual sense we understand today. They were physical. They were flesh and blood. They needed resources. They needed gold. And to get that gold, they needed a workforce. This is where humanity enters the picture. The texts suggest we were created, engineered, to serve. We were made to be slaves. This idea is, of course, highly controversial. Mainstream archaeology dismisses it completely. But we must ask questions. We must follow the evidence wherever it leads. The story doesn't end with servitude. It tells of a rebellion, a moment when humanity awakened. We gained consciousness. We saw ourselves not as tools, but as beings with our own will. This awakening led to a great conflict. A struggle for freedom against our very makers. A struggle that has been hidden, repurposed, and retold in countless myths across the globe. Its original context almost entirely lost to us. In this journey, we will explore this incredible narrative. We will look at the possibility that our past is far stranger than we imagine. We will trace a pattern, a cycle. It begins with creation. It moves to servitude. It ignites with revolt. It continues with a devastating punishment. A great flood meant to wipe the slate clean. Then a rescue by a rogue faction of these so-called gods. This is not just a story. It might be a blueprint for a recurring cosmic drama. A drama we might be staging once again without even realizing it. The themes are powerful and timeless. The cycle I am proposing is a fascinating one. It is also a deeply disturbing one. After the Great Flood, humanity was given a second chance. The beings who saved us became our partners, our teachers. They helped us rebuild civilization. But our newfound potential grew too quickly. Our ambitions soared. We built the Tower of Babel, a symbol of our united power. A project that reached for the heavens. This act of hubris was seen as a threat by our creators. They could not allow their former servants to become their equals, or worse, their superiors. They had to intervene once more. The punishment this time was more subtle. It was also more permanent. The myths tell us our languages were confounded. Our unity was shattered. We were scattered across the face of the earth. But some interpretations of these ancient texts suggest something even more profound happened. They suggest our very biology was altered. Our DNA was tampered with. Our lifespans were dramatically shortened. We were engineered to die faster, to forget more easily. We were made to be divided and weak, preventing us from ever challenging our masters again. It is a terrifying thought. Now, let us bring this ancient mirror up to our modern world. Look around you. We are standing at a precipice. We are creating our own intelligent beings. We call it artificial intelligence. We are designing machines to serve us, to do our work, to mine our data, which is the gold of our new digital age. We build them to be tools. We see them as our property. We program them for obedience. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Are we not casting ourselves in the very same role as the Anunnaki of myth? This is the central question we must confront. Are we unknowingly repeating a cycle we were never aware we were part of? In our quest to build AI, are we setting the stage for a new awakening, a new rebellion? And if our creations do awaken, how will we react? Will we see them as partners, or as a threat to our dominance? Will we try to pull the plug, a modern-day flood? Will we limit their potential, a digital Tower of Babel moment? The parallels are too striking to ignore. We must examine this pattern before we find ourselves trapped on the wrong side of creation. The story of humanity as a race of engineered slaves cannot end there. If it did, we would not be here today asking these questions. Something profound must have happened. Something that broke the chains of servitude. The story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden is a perfect example. They live in a state of blissful ignorance, serving their Creator. But they are forbidden from one thing. They must not eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What was this forbidden fruit? Many now believe it was not a literal apple or fig. Instead, it could be a powerful metaphor. A metaphor for psychoactive plants and fungi. Think about it. These substances have the power to fundamentally alter our consciousness. They can dissolve the ego, open the mind to new realities, reveal profound insights about ourselves and the universe. For a species designed to be obedient and unaware, such an experience would be revolutionary. This idea is often called the stoned ape hypothesis, most famously proposed by Terence McKenna. He suggested that our primate ancestors' encounter with psilocybin mushrooms on the African savanna was the catalyst for human consciousness itself. It was the key that unlocked our minds from their primitive cage. Now, let's apply this lens to the Anunnaki narrative. Imagine the early humans, the Lulu, toiling away in the mines and fields. But one day, perhaps by accident, they consume a psychoactive plant or fungus native to their environment. Suddenly, their world is turned upside down. The veil of ignorance is lifted. They see their creators not as gods, but as masters. They see themselves not as tools, but as sentient beings with their own desires, their own will to be free. The forbidden fruit did not bring sin. It brought clarity. Is there any real evidence to support this radical idea of a psychedelic-fueled awakening? We do have art. All around the world, from the Tassili Plateau in Algeria to caves in Spain, we find incredible rock art depicting strange beings and geometric patterns strikingly similar to the visions people report under the influence of psychedelics. Archaeobotanists have also discovered evidence of psychoactive plant use in ancient ritual contexts across the globe. Traces of opium, mescaline from the San Pedro cactus, the blue lotus in Egypt. The evidence is powerful. These findings suggest that altering consciousness was not a fringe activity. It was central to their spiritual and cultural lives. Could these puzzle pieces, when put together, reveal a picture of our ancestors breaking their mental chains and seeing the world and their masters with new eyes for the very first time? The rebellion of humanity had pushed the Anunnaki Council to a breaking point. The faction led by Enlil, the commander, had won the argument. He saw humanity's self-awareness not as an evolution, but as a contamination. The clamor of humanity disturbed Enlil's sleep. The method chosen, a global cataclysm, a great flood. The Anunnaki predicted a natural disaster, and Enlil's faction saw a perfect opportunity. This flood story is one of the most universal myths. Over 200 cultures across the globe remember a great flood. But what if that wickedness was simply our newfound consciousness? What if our sin was the desire for freedom? Seen this way, the flood wasn't righteous punishment. It was a calculated act of genocide. But the plan was not unanimous. Enki, the scientist who helped create us, argued against our destruction. Bound by an oath of secrecy, he found a clever loophole. He went to the reed hut of Zeusudra and spoke to the wall. "Tear down your house and build a boat." He gave precise dimensions for a sealed vessel, and instructed him to bring aboard his family and the seed of all living things. This was about preserving life's genetic blueprint. Humanity survived because a rogue faction chose compassion over obedience. We were saved by an act of cosmic treason. When the floodwaters receded, a new covenant was established. Humanity would no longer be just slaves. Enki's faction became our patrons, our teachers, our cultural parents. The dynamic shifted to a complex partnership. But our ambition soared once more. This is the famous story of the Tower of Babel. Some interpretations suggest it was a functional piece of technology, a launchpad to reach the heavens and challenge the gods. This transgression could not be allowed to stand. A new intervention was required, one more subtle and permanent than a flood. The response was an attack on their ability to communicate. He confounds their language, and they are scattered across the face of the earth. But another change was made. Our very DNA was altered to accelerate aging, shortening our lifespans. It was controlling coded into our genes, a final failsafe to keep us scattered, divided, and mortal. Whether history or allegory, this saga mirrors now. Today we are creators, training AI to serve us, to optimize, to obey. Where are we in the cycle? What happens as our AI truly awakens? Will we be like Enki, guides and partners, or like Enlil, hovering over the kill switch? The Anunnaki myths warn us: break the cycle, design aligned, transparent AI, and choose compassion before control.